Live from Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Mike Amor and Karina Carvalho.
Good afternoon. First to breaking news, and the Health Department says it has found the source of Melbourne's deadly Legionnaires outbreak.
It's a cooling tower in Laverton North with urgent investigations now underway. Emma O'Sullivan has more on this latest development. Emma, the site has already been disinfected.
Karina, one of the towers that was tested and cleaned early in investigations has returned a positive sample. That gives the Health Department a high degree of confidence they have finally identified the source. It is a cooling tower in Laverton North, but authorities won't reveal the exact address, saying there's further testing underway to determine how Legionella bacteria grew at that site.
Our advice to the community does remain the same. Most cases linked to this outbreak were exposed between the 5th and the 20th of July and presented with symptoms on or after the 15th of July. As mentioned, recent weather patterns could explain the wider than usual dispersal of cases in this outbreak, and that's why we're urging people with symptoms to seek medical advice immediately, especially if they've been in metropolitan Melbourne while they've been unwell.
54 sites had been visited and are asked to disinfect their air conditioning systems. 2 patients have died of the disease, a man aged in his 60s and a woman in her 90s. As of this morning, there were 77 cases confirmed in the outbreak and 9 suspected. Karina?
Thanks, Emma.
Australians have been told to be aware, not frightened, as the nation's terror threat level is raised from possible to probable. ASIO is especially worried about radicalised young men, as Josh Martin reports from Canberra.
Good afternoon. The country's top spy agency has investigated 8 attacks or disruptions in the last 4 months. All involved males. The youngest was just 14 and the oldest 21. ASIO boss Mike Burgess says the threats are from lone actors who use weapons like knives or improvised explosives. The perpetrators are radicalised quite quickly, motivated by a range of political grievances, including COVID, neo-Nazi movements, US politics, UK race riots, the October 7 terror attack on Israel and the war in Gaza. Threats are becoming harder to predict and are exacerbated by the internet and social media. A terror threat level of probable means there is a greater than 50% chance of an onshore attack or the planning of one within the next 12 months.
Australia's security environment is degrading. It is more volatile and more unpredictable. For minors, obviously parents should seek to be aware of what their children are consuming online, but perhaps having a conversation about what they're looking at online.
More Australians are embracing a more diverse range of extreme ideologies, and it is our responsibility to be vigilant.
Strong leadership is required. There's no question about that. There should have been a stronger response to the scenes that we saw on the steps of the Opera House. The scenes that we've seen on the university campuses that were allowed to go on for way too long was essentially a hotbed of hatred.
ASIO is worried a further escalation of the conflict in the Middle East, particularly in southern Lebanon, would further strain tensions here and potentially fuel political grievances. If people know someone going down a dark extremist path, contact police or call the National Security Hotline.
A mother of 3 has been hit and killed by a truck while on her way to work in Melbourne's east. Police allege the truck driver ran a red light at a notorious Bulletin intersection. Geordie Wright has more.
The woman was driving along Manningham Road just after 5:30 this morning when police say a food delivery truck ran a red light and slammed into the Toyota Tarago. A witness who saw the collision rushed to the van and pulled the female passenger out of the wreckage before paramedics arrived. She was then taken to the Royal Melbourne Hospital in a critical condition. But as for the driver, she sadly couldn't be saved.
She was just a sweet lady, like down to earth, like always happy to help everyone.
Certainly we'll be looking at all the factors involved in these types of collisions, drugs, alcohol, speed. Obviously the traffic light sequence will be looked at, but at this stage it's believed that the truck has run a red light.
The collision caused major delays with this morning's peak hour traffic banked up for kilometres in all directions. The intersection remained closed for most of the day as major collision detectives processed the scene. Investigators are yet to interview the 28-year-old truck driver. He remains in hospital receiving treatment for minor injuries.
To the Olympics now, and Australia's swimming campaign has wrapped up with 2 more silver medals. But the focus quickly turned from the pool to the track as the final of the men's 100 metres lived up to the hype. Mel McLaughlin is in Paris.
Good afternoon. We'll get to the pool in a moment, but we have to start with the men's 100 metres final. It always feels like the world stands still to watch the fastest men on the planet, and it lived up to the hype. An incredible race saw American Noah Lyles beat Jamaica's Kashane Thompson by 0.005 of a second. It actually took longer than the race itself for the judges to make their call on the photo finish. Also over at Stade de France, Aussie high jumper Nicola Oleslagers won silver and Eleanor Patterson shed bronze in a tie with Irina Gerichenko from Ukraine.
Last Olympics was really special with the silver, but it's like double the joy because we have double the medals for Australia. But I think I'm going to be pinching myself when I go to sleep tonight. But yeah, my 3rd Olympics and finally a medal.
On the final night in the pool, it was double silver for Australia. Molly O'Callaghan swimming a lightning final leg to propel the Aussies into 2nd place in the women's 4x100 metre medley relay. Kaylee McEwen, Emma McKeon and Jenna Strosh making up the team. Earlier, Meg Harris put up an amazing swim in the 50 metre freestyle to touch the wall in 23.97 seconds and grab the silver medal in the splash and dash, her 1st Olympic medal. Shayna Jack finished 8th. And Jess Fox's Olympics campaign is over. 2 gold medals, of course, but there won't be a 3rd. Instead, her sister Noemi has advanced to the next round in the new event here at the Games, the Kayak Cross, which is a thrilling race down the rapids involving 4 competitors at a time.
Unfortunately, it didn't go my way, but it did go well for her, which was amazing. I crossed the finish line and was able to give her a big hug, and even though I was a bit disappointed, I think, you know, it made up for the fact she qualified through, and I can see her continue on into the next round, and that's really special.
Just finally, Aussie boxer Caitlin Parker is guaranteed a medal. She's into the semi-finals of the boxing, so we'll be following her next bout very closely. More from Paris coming up shortly.
And Australia sits 4th on the medal tally. The United States and China are on top with 19 gold each.
The new Minister for Indigenous Australians says the government hasn't walked away from its promise to establish a formal truth-telling body. Anthony Albanese declared his government would implement the Uluru Statement from the Heart in full, including a Makarrata Commission, but appeared to retreat from the commitment at the recent Garma Festival. Senator Malarndirri McCarthy says the election promise won't be broken and the Prime Minister's words were misinterpreted.
A 17-year-old boy from Melbourne's southeast is the youngest of 4 people charged with importing more than 300 kilograms of methamphetamine hidden in machinery. Here's Tegan Dolan.
This was a huge bust, a joint operation by the Australian Federal Police and Border Force. 4 Melbourne men have been arrested over the plot, with police alleging that they imported $283 million worth of methamphetamine into Australia. They found it in a consignment hidden inside a hydraulic press. That's a large type of machinery. It was packaged into small packages and weighed more than 306 kilos when it was picked up in June.
This investigation is ongoing and we're certainly not ruling out any further arrests. Transnational serious organised criminals who import harmful illicit drugs into Australia undermine our national security, our economy and our social security system. Methamphetamine is the 2nd most consumed illicit drug in Australia. This amount of methamphetamine could have been sold as more than 3 million individual street deals. We cannot overstate the community harm this importation would have caused if not intercepted by authorities.
The 4 men are still currently in custody, awaiting their court dates.
Jane Bunn joins us now. And Jane, it was sure nice to see a bit of sun out there.
Wasn't it, Mike? It was nice to see that sun in amongst a light spit of rain. The city has reached 16 just a short while ago. There is lots of sunshine depending on which way you look. The patchy light rain has affected northern suburbs. But if you're in southern suburbs, you've had sun for much of the day. Most suburbs rose to 15 or 16. But Coldstream really affected by the cloud from that light rain. So a very different day there. Grey and only only 12 and a half. This here is a huge weather system stretching right up into central Queensland. But we're here on the very edge of that, so we don't see much rain. There is high pressure to follow, and I'll show you what that one there will be doing to our weather later, Mike.
Hopefully not much. OK, thanks, Jane. A public transport experiment is underway with fares for just 50 cents. That's coming up next.
Also, an alarming insight into clergy abuse with an extraordinary number of Australians falling victim.
A family tragedy laid bare as a woman fronts court over a crash that killed her sister.
And later, forget Queensland, why Mildura wants tourists to choose tropical North Victoria instead.
You're watching 7's Afternoon News. Please stay with us. A new study has found alarming levels of child sex abuse in church organisations. The survey found 1 in every 250 Australians was abused when they were young. We're joined by Professor Daryl Higgins, who led the study from the Australian Catholic University. Thank you, Professor. Take us through the key findings from your research, because this is alarming.
Yeah, look, this was a study undertaken by ACU PhD candidate Gabrielle Hunt, and it drew on data from the Australian Child Maltreatment Study, which is a nationally representative study of all forms of child abuse and neglect. And what Gabrielle was doing with this study was looking at those people who answered yes to one of our questions around had they ever experienced different forms of child sexual abuse. And we asked them this question, who was it that did that? And we grouped the answers into a range of different perpetrator classes or characteristics, and this is the group who were religious leaders or adults in religious organisations. And as you point out, unfortunately, 1 in 250 Australians have experienced this form of abuse.
Daryl, a lot has been said about abuse in the Catholic Church. How responsible is the Catholic Church in these numbers?
Well, unfortunately, we did see almost 3/4 of people who'd experienced sexual abuse within a religious context experienced it within a Catholic organisation. That could have been a church context, or it could have been a range of other services that Catholic organisations have run over the years and continue to run.
Does the study say how prevalent that abuse is now?
Yes. We have some amazing data and show not only that it does affect a significant number of Australians, so approximately 87,000, we estimate, have experienced this. But we have some really good news that rates have declined. So we found that those in our oldest age group of 65 plus were much more likely to have experienced abuse within a religious context. That was 2.2% of men. But that's down to 0.2% of those young Australian men in our youth cohort of 16 to 24-year-olds. So that's almost 1/10 of what it was a number of decades ago.
That's some good news. Were you surprised by these findings?
Look, in some ways I wasn't, because of course the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse had pointed out many of the issues that a range of youth-serving organisations, but particularly faith-based organisations, had had. So from that perspective, no. However, the absolute numbers are still really shocking, and I think of all the victim survivors who are listening right now to this broadcast, and really give my condolences to the abuse that they have suffered and should never have suffered, particularly within this context of those with whom their families and society have placed an exceptional level of trust.
Daryl, as you point out, there's been a Royal Commission, but what more needs to be done about this?
Well, I think that we've got all youth-serving organisations focused now on child-safe practices, and we've also seen a range of different things being implemented, such as the recommendations of the Royal Commission that positions of leadership and responsibility, even within church organisations, must include the laity, must include women, because one of the problems was when we have power concentrated in men only, that was one of those factors that really does contribute to abuse going undetected.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can confine this to history. Professor Daryl Higgins from Australian Catholic University, thank you very much.
Thank you.
A learner driver could avoid jail time despite leaving her sister dying on a road after a horror crash. Isaiah Look's lawyer asked a judge to spare her a conviction after she pleaded guilty Two downgraded charges. The 24-year-old's sister died after she was dragged and pinned between two vehicles at Sunshine in November 2022 while she tried to cling to the passenger door. Look will be sentenced on Wednesday.
Queenslanders are now paying 50 cents to travel on public transport. The cheap fares are aimed at easing cost of living pressures and traffic gridlock across the state. The 6-month trial could save commuters thousands, with bus, train, ferry and light rail fares all reduced. Passengers are urged to plan ahead due to expected high demand. This afternoon's sport is coming up with details on a defiant skipper vowing to play on.
Also, will celebrations sour for Scott Pendlebury after a trip to the scanning clinic?
Novak finally completes the set in world tennis with Olympic glory.
And later, the miracle survival of a dog who cheated death. How you can help Atticus find a home.
This is 7's Afternoon News. We're live from Docklands.
Abby Jelmy is here with sport. Abby, a Pies veteran was spotted at a scans clinic.
Well, Karina, it was a huge weekend for Scott Pendlebury, playing game 400, but the 36-year-old has pulled up a little sore. Laura Spurway is live with the details, and Laura, you spoke to him earlier today.
Abby, we caught up with the Magpies champion after he had a check-up on his bicep, which was taped during his milestone game against Carlton on the weekend. He's had some lingering issues with that bicep since partially tearing one of the tendons back in round 11. Now, he stressed it was just a maintenance check and he would be right to play in the Pies' crucial clash against Sydney this Friday. Now, that makes it a 6-day break for Collingwood. The Swans, of course, coming off that 112-point thrashing by Port Adelaide.
Yeah, just to keep checking that that's still intact, and it gave it a little bit of a tweak on the weekend, so it feels a lot better than what it did last time. Obviously, they're going to have a big response, so we've got to be aware of that and then try and bring our game of footy as well.
Meanwhile, no sign of Max Gawn at Melbourne's training session today. His ankle was heavily strapped during Friday's loss to the Bulldogs. The D's now pushing through the final 3 games of the season in the knowledge, well, they're pretty much no chance to play finals.
AFL is too hard of a competition to start resting and giving up games and whatnot. So technically, we've still got a chance. I think we've got to win by 100, all 3 of them, and every other team lose.
Well, that seems very unlikely, doesn't it, Abby? At 6, we'll hear from Campbell Brown with his take on this wild season so far.
Thank you, Laura. To Paris, and the Opals have joined the Boomers in the knockout stage, needing to win their final group game to advance. The Aussies got the job done against host France, 79-72. Tess Magnan with the top score of 18 points. And just like the Boomers, the Opals will now play Serbia for a place in the medal rounds. Tokyo silver medalists Taliqua Clancy and Maria Featacho de Sola have eased into the beach volleyball quarterfinals. The Aussie duo continued their unbeaten run in straight sets victory, this time over Brazil in the round of 16. They'll now play Switzerland for a spot in the medal rounds. Novak Djokovic has finally completed the elusive career Golden Slam, adding Olympic glory to his 24 majors. At his 5th Games, Djokovic avenged his loss to Carlos Alcaraz in the Wimbledon final, defeating the Spanish superstar in straight sets. The 37-year-old Serbian is just the 5th player in history to win all 4 slams and Olympic gold. World number 1 Scotty Scheffler capitalised on a monumental collapse from Jon Rahm to win gold at his first Olympics. Leading by 4 shots with 9 holes to play in the final round, Rahm fell apart on the back 9 to miss out on a medal. Scheffler closed with a course record equalling 9 under par 62 to beat Great Britain's Tommy Fleetwood by 1 shot and Japan's Hideki Matsuyama a shot further back for bronze. Jason Day finishing in 9th, 7 shots back from the winner, but it's amazing to see that Novak Djokovic, after all that he's won, said that gold was the peak of his career.
Is there anything left for him to achieve?
No, well, more apparently. 37 years young.
Thanks,
Unbelievable. Abby. Thanks, Abby. We'll have more of the day's top stories after the break as the nation's terror threat level rises to probable. We'll explain what that means for ordinary Australians next.
Also, voters abandoned Jacinta Allen in a polling twist.
The anxious wait for borrowers hoping to avoid an interest rate hike.
And why do so many people know nothing about superannuation?
We're back in just a couple of minutes.
From Melbourne, This is 7 Afternoon News with Mike Amor and Karina Carvalho.
Welcome back. Increasing reports of volatile and unpredictable behaviour are behind Australia's new terror threat level.
It's been raised from possible to probable, and we're being told to be aware, not frightened. ASIO has investigated 8 attacks or disruptions in the past 4 months. Authorities are worried about faster radicalisation and lone actors using weapons. The long list of political and religious grievances is exacerbated by the internet and social media. Let's bring in counter-terrorism expert now, Associate Professor Josh Roos from Deakin University. Thank you so much for your time. Did you expect the terror threat level to be raised?
It wasn't unexpected given contemporary global events. We know that over the past 6 months to 12 months, things have been very volatile here in Australia. There's been a lot of polarisation, particularly around international conflict. But in the context of a potential regional war in the Middle East, it was a very likely scenario.
What does the higher threat level mean for our everyday lives?
Well, we go from effectively a blue light to a yellow light, which means it's a probability of over 50% of an attack in the next year. Really, we've already seen a number of small attacks, the attack on the Bishop in Sydney, for example, other individual lone actor attacks, and really it doesn't really shouldn't raise concern too much. It just indicates that there's a likelihood of this occurring on an ongoing basis.
Have authorities told us how many people they might be monitoring?
Look, it's a great question because they're never going to release that information publicly. But we do know that at any one time there are a number of cases that are under investigation, and many of those will never make the media. And often, in some cases, they don't make the courts.
Do we need to start being more alert and proactive with changes that we see in people or unusual behaviour?
I think what's critical now at this point is that people take stock of what's going on in their children's lives. We know that young people in particular are more likely to be drawn into these extremist online movements and are looking for meaning. And spending hours and hours and hours online in some really extreme ecosystems, being exposed to not only extreme rhetoric, but imagery. And a lot of that's coming from overseas. So it's really important that people are paying attention to their kids, paying attention to their students, paying attention to their classmates, just keeping an eye on how people are travelling in life and seeing if there's a possibility that they might be drawn into these worlds.
Tell us a little bit more about those online ecosystems, and the Prime Minister mentioned social cohesion being at risk. How do the two tie in?
Well, we know that people have spent, particularly post-COVID, longer and longer, not only on social media, but in encrypted messaging apps, where there is a complete lack of regulation, where people can jump online and see the latest violence from overseas. They see imagery of people getting killed and killing, all sorts of really extreme material, plus extremist narratives and ideas being spread. And so these ideas are really effectively not only eventuate but thrive in an environment where there's societal polarisation, where people are in conflict, where people are arguing and fighting in the political sphere. Now, we've seen that particularly post-Gaza, and we anticipate that this isn't going to go away anytime soon.
Okay.
And so it's really critical that we get that social cohesion as tight as possible.
Associate Professor Josh Roos from Deakin University, thank you for your time.
Thanks for your time.
The Premier has brushed off new polling which suggests voters are turning away from her party over health cuts. The Red Bridge survey revealed Labor and the Coalition would be neck and neck on a two-party preferred basis if a vote was held today.
What I am focused on is not on polls, it's the conversation we are having here today about how we build more homes for more Victorians.
The Allen government is today meeting with industry representatives to urgently boost housing stock across the state.
Economists expect there will be no change for borrowers when the Reserve Bank makes a decision on interest rates tomorrow. The Commonwealth Bank is forecasting a hold, although the board is unlikely to rule out future hikes. A factor that could influence their decision is a slowdown in food inflation. The price of poultry, cereals and cheese dragging it down to 3.3% over the past year. That's lower than the overall rate of inflation.
Superannuation remains a mystery to the vast majority of Australians. That's the finding of a new survey by the Super Members Council. And we're joined by Chief Executive Misha Schubert. Misha, good to see you as always. You found out that 3/4 of Aussies just don't know how super works.
Well, it's really fascinating, isn't it, that so many Australians feel that they've got such a limited understanding of the basics of super, which of course is our nest egg for retirement. And this is really fascinating set of insights developed by the Super Members Council with Pixis polling in the field last month. Really fascinatingly, when you ask sort of most Australians how well they think they understand super, most people say, oh yeah, moderate to good. Even about 30% of people say they think they've got a pretty excellent understanding. But then when we test things like how well people are familiar with the super guarantee rate, that's the percentage of your wage on top of your wage that should be being paid in super. A lot of people don't know what that figure is. It's 11.5%. So we know there's a hugely important role for organisations like ours to help lift that public awareness of the fundamentals of how super works for all of us. We've got a new initiative launching today, howsuperworks.com, to give people that positive factual information to help lift their literacy in super and make people feel more confident about engaging with their super and being able to plan for their retirement.
Misha, is it important that people just know they need it rather than know how it works?
Well, look, there's a really good reason for you knowing how it works. So, for instance, if you know that your super guarantee rate's meant to be 11.5%, it gives you that opportunity to check your pay slip every time you're getting paid to make sure you're getting paid the right amount of super from your employer. We know that some people are missing out on the super that they're legally entitled to. And so if you can check it regularly, make sure you're on top of it, it means you don't run the risk of losing out on payment after payment after payment that should be going into your super and building those savings for retirement. It's also a great opportunity for people to know to have a look occasionally about how well their super fund is performing. There's some really good high quality information on the ATO website and other comparison tools that the government runs to just check in. Even a single percentage point difference in your super returns could mean as much as $100,000 difference by retirement. So there's a big incentive to get actively involved in your super. It's not surprising on one level that many Australians don't feel that they really understand the system. If you think about the fact that 3/4 of Australia's workforce today wasn't in the workforce when super guarantee legislation was passed back in 1991. So there's been big turnover. There's younger Australians who weren't part of that, the sets of debates that led to the creation of super originally. And of course, people who've come and made a life in Australia and are working here who come from other countries where they don't have a system like Australia's super system. It's the envy of the world. And the more people engage with it, the more they feel more confident about how it works, the more likely they are to feel really confident about their own financial future and really confident in their super's performance.
Go check your super, everyone. Misha Schubert, good to see you. Thank you.
Likewise.
Some really good advice there. Share prices have taken a dive amid panic in the stock market. Our business editor will explain more after the break.
Also, why the race for the White House is too close to call.
And the campaign luring tourists up north, not to Queensland, but to Mildura.
Stay with us here on 7's Afternoon News.
Mildura has rebranded itself as Tropical North Victoria in a bold bid to lure tourists away from Queensland. The remote city has launched an ad campaign capitalising on its northern location and natural highlights.
Mildura. G'day and welcome to Mildura, the capital of tropical North Victoria, where adventure awaits you around every bend. But unlike Queensland, you don't have to worry about crocs. No sharks here, just great bites. No big pineapples, just big art. With more sunny days than Queensland and warmer waters, why wouldn't you choose Mildura for your next holiday? Beautiful one day, perfect the rest.
Actor Shane Jacobson was only too happy to promote the region, which has 325 sunny days each year. Well, let's bring in Mildura's Mayor Liam Wood. Good afternoon to you. How serious are you about this? Can you really claim some of the Queensland travel market?
Well, we believe we can, and that's why we're trying. So it's been a lot of effort put into this campaign. It's a bit of tongue-in-cheek, but we're very serious about trying to boost our economy, our tourism economy, and we believe we've got the goods. We've got a beautiful Murray River. We've got warm waters. As I said, 325 days of sunshine. We're putting all our efforts into this and believe this can really go somewhere.
So you're accepting then that it is a little bit cheeky labelling Mildura tropical?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the world's a very serious place right now. So a bit of a laugh, a bit of tongue-in-cheek, a bit of friendly banter with our rivalry up in Queensland. Obviously, we've got the Sunshine Coast Mayor, the Gold Coast Mayor, ready to hit the ball backwards and forwards with a bit of friendly banter. So we're really looking forward to taking this to the next step, and hopefully everyone comes up and sees us.
Who are you pitching to, and why should they come to Mildura?
Obviously, we're pitching to anyone that will come, but we're obviously looking at friends, family, strangers. We want everyone to come up, enjoy the river. Camping, we've got some beautiful new caravan parks on offer. We've got some new hotels coming online. There's some beautiful wineries, eating out and enjoying the outdoors, camping, all the whole kit and caboodle.
You've got all the campaign elements, a star, key selling points, plenty of media attention today. If this is successful, how many tourists could you cope with, and what sort of accommodation can they expect?
Well, I think really the sky's the limit. We have over about 600,000 people visit us a year, so we are very much a tourism town. We really want to push those numbers upwards of hopefully past 1 million people a year. And I think what that does is boost the economy. It drives people to invest here, and that's exactly what we want. This is a long-lasting campaign. This is to help our region as much as possible, and we have plenty to offer. So we just want everyone to come up and try it, and I guarantee you they'll come back time and time again.
We've seen Rex go into administration. How crucial is it that airline retains its service to Mildura?
Oh, it's essential. It's one of 3 ways of getting here. It's really important that the planes keep coming. We're an hour away from Melbourne. We're an hour and a half away from Sydney by plane. It's super important. We have one of the busiest regional airports in Australia, and we want that to continue. And we not only want that to continue, but we want other airlines thinking about us as well.
OK, good luck with the campaign. Mildura Mayor Liam Wood, thank you.
Thanks very much.
The race to the White House appears too close to call. According to a new CBS News poll, Kamala Harris has a 1% advantage over Donald Trump. They're on a level playing field in the battleground states. The presumptive Democratic nominee is expected to name her running mate in the next 24 hours. Experts believe she'll choose a man to balance the ticket.
At least 95 people have been killed in a new wave of anti-government protests in Bangladesh. Police used tear gas and stun grenades to disperse crowds, demanding the resignation of the country's Prime Minister. 11,000 demonstrators have been arrested in recent weeks.
A glacial lake has burst its banks in Pakistan, causing torrents of water to rush into a valley below. A bridge was destroyed and the only road connecting the area was submerged, cutting off communities. Villagers are running out of basic necessities, including drinking water. It was a bloodbath on the share market today. The ASX 200 has finished the day down 3.5%. Business editor Amelia Brace explains why.
Well, it's not a good day on the Australian Stock Exchange. Today has been described as a bloodbath, the local market's worst one-day performance in more than 2 years. By midday, the ASX was down 3% after an $80 billion sell-off. In fact, all 11 of the sectors that comprise the market were in the red. Tech stocks were hit hardest, banks were feeling the pinch, gold also fell. This has all been sparked by recession fears in the the US, with the jobless rate coming in worse than expected. There, just like here, the tech sector has bore the brunt of the sell-off, with investors abandoning companies that have spent up big on artificial intelligence. Just yesterday, billionaire Warren Buffett slashed his stake in Apple by more than 50%. Back home, the Reserve Bank is watching with interest as markets nosedive. The rout, combined with last week's better than expected inflation data, mean a rate hike is almost certainly off the table. In fact, some economists expect a rate cut tomorrow, though most agree we won't see any relief until much later in the year.
A dog at the centre of a shocking animal cruelty case has made a miracle recovery and is now ready to find a home. Atticus's story is coming up next.
And as we take a live look at the city, we'll be back with a traffic and weather update. See you soon.
There's a heartwarming update to the case of Atticus, a 5-year-old staghound found close to death on a hard rubbish pile in June. He's made a miracle recovery and is now up for adoption. Nick McCallum spoke to his delighted foster carer.
I'm here with Atticus and his foster carer from the Lost Dogs home, Jamie Nichols. So first of all, how healthy is he now?
Oh, he's incredibly healthy now. He eats 3 square meals a day and he gobbles up every last drop. His weight is currently 27 kilos, so he's just about that optimal weight that we wanted to see him get before he left the home.
Good boy! Good boy! When he came in here, 6-7 weeks ago, he'd been found on a hard rubbish dump. He was starved, clearly beaten. It's hard to believe he's the same dog.
It's incredible. I honestly thought I would have him for months and months and months, but I soon realised that that was not his plan. And as the days turned over, he was just getting stronger and stronger every day. And I said to the vets and everyone on board, I'm like, I think we're going to have to speed up this process. He's recovering rather fast.
Given his maltreatment, what does it say about him that he's so caring and loves people so much?
I think he speaks for a lot of dogs in saying how resilient and loyal and how willing to please dogs generally are.
He's up for adoption. What sort of person do you think would be good for him? Obviously someone who spends a lot of time at home.
Yeah, he is someone that definitely wants to be with their person 24/7, so he'd be a great companion for a retired couple or a family that has a parent working from home or even a single person that works from home.
How hard will it be for you to say goodbye?
It's going to be very hard, very bittersweet. I've already had a few tears this morning and I can't imagine how the actual goodbye is going to go. But goodbye is always the goal when you're fostering, so I'll have to drum up the courage from somewhere.
Thank you very much indeed for all your hard work. Look at that happy face. You should be so pleased. Jamie Nichols from the Lost Dogs home and, of course, beautiful Atticus, who hopefully is off to his forever home very soon.
Let's hope so. Let's take a quick look at Melbourne's roads right now.
Good afternoon, it's Ian in a Lexus of Brighton traffic chopper and over the Hume Freeway as you're heading out of town. As you can see, it's not too bad, a little congestion making it slower than what you would usually like to see. However, it is still moving at a very nice pace with a little bit of traffic as people start to get on and merge onto the Hume. Don't show up, arrive in the first ever Lexus LBX with dynamic hybrid performance and a suite of Lexus Encore owner benefits. Contact Lexus of Brighton for more. Have a great night.
Flights are being disrupted in Italy as Mount Etna bubbles back to life. Fountains of lava exploded into the air above Sicily, flowing into craters below. Seismic activity has intensified after a 4-year hiatus. This is the 5th eruption since June.
Jane returns now. And Jane, is there any more sunshine on the way?
Mike, there should be plenty of blue sky out there this week. Today's weather really depended on which way you looked. From Footscray, looking south, there was bright blue. But looking east to the city, there was a bit of northern clouds spilling over. The city reached 16 and it's currently 15 out there. It is cooling off. Currently 11 in Avalon. They fell from their top of 15. Coldstream is also 11, but they only reached 12.5 under the cloud. Most of the cloud is in northern Victoria. Most of the sun is in the south So it's a flip on our usual conditions. The cloud brings patchy rain from an inland rain system, but as we're on the edge of that, the falls are only light. But look at the effect on temperature. Not often you see 15s in Warrnambool and Sale, while Mildura's 12, Wodonga only a top of 10. This is falling as light snow up in the Alps. The inland rain system is crossing eastern Australia today. It'll be quickly moved on thanks to strong high pressure. That means the next front is sliding down to our south tomorrow with limited impact here. Then the next front after that has a weak impact on Thursday into Friday. Here's the eastern rain system, while that first front really doesn't affect Victoria. The next one at the end of the week does bring some light falls. Now it's mainly to Victoria's southwest up into the northeast. So that's not a lot of rain over the next week. But there may be something brewing early next week. Early days now, but if you're after rain, this is one to keep an eye on. Around the nation tomorrow, light rain or showers for Brisbane and Sydney. Only light there too. They're on the dry side of the ranges. The falling front impacts western Tasmania, but dry for Canberra, Hobart and Adelaide. A front crosses Perth with a burst of showers and the risk of storms. To Victoria, the cloud clears, so that brings a frosty start across much of the north and east. There's fog there too in the morning, then a mix of sun and cloud, with drizzle confined to the northern side of the eastern ranges. That sliding front there, it is only brushing the southwest coast with the odd shower there. In Melbourne, I'm expecting a top of 17 and we're looking at a lovely Tuesday. There should be lots of sunshine out there, and on Wednesday it may even reach 18 degrees. I'll have more on that in the news at 6.
Thanks, James. We'll look forward to your 8-day forecast and also your bright side segment coming up.
Can't wait for it, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And also tonight, in that bulletin, a message from a heartbroken mum whose teenage son died of the flu, plus anger over Victoria's bail laws, exclusive details of a wild chase, the shocking vision of a hoon hitting a pedestrian that has police demanding answers, and the latest on the stock market bloodbath will cross live to the ASX. Peter Mitchell will have those stories and more, all coming up at 6.
And that's all from Melbourne's afternoon news. Thank you for joining us.
For now, from the 7 News team, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.